Hey everybody, this is Randy with Direct Action. This podcast is brought to you by and supported by, sponsored by.
All correct terms, by the way. Every one of them.
It's sponsored by Grey Fox Strategic. Grey Fox Strategic are in the industry of building high-level, high-quality Kydex products. They're located here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. For a discount code, type in DA10 and get your 10% off your next purchase. Hit that website up, support a great Canadian product, and get your 10% off by typing in DA10. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get started here. We got an awesome guest today, a friend of mine I've known for quite some time. We served together. His name is Dion Larratt. You all probably are well aware of this man. He's not only a legend in the arm wrestling realm, but he's just an all-around good human being. So welcome, Devon. Awesome to have you, buddy.
I'm so happy to be here. It's so good to see you again.
Yes, it is. It's been a while.
It has been.
Yeah.
I've been following you. I follow all your stuff. I'm watching you. Still killing it.
Yeah.
It looks like you're smoother and better than ever.
Well, thanks for the words, buddy. I tell you, it's the journey doesn't have a finish line. There's always learning to be done. There's always polishing to be done. So it's been a trip over the last couple of years for sure.
Yeah. It's going to be great to catch up with you. I'm so curious about stuff you're doing too.
Yeah.
Like you still love it. You still love
Love it. Love it. I will do it until the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
I hope when I go, I'm running down the range doing a demo for somebody, and I just that's where I want to go.
And I'm so curious because about lifespan and and levels.
Yeah.
Are you a better fighter now than when you got out?
I don't think so, man. I think now my training is inconsistent. I'm still on the mat, as much as I can be. I'd like to be on the mat.
I'm talking about the overall. I'm not talking about just on the mat. I'm talking about if there was a war and like they get that guy at the end of his career or sometime in his career, or they get you now.
I'm a better version today.
Now, yeah.
I think I am. Yeah. Wiser, just more, I would say more depth to the layers. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
How about you? What have you been doing? What's keeping you busy? I see you all over the place. You're doing seminars, you do talks. Tell us like for viewers that maybe are unaware. Let's talk about Devon. Who are you? What keeps you busy? What gets you out of bed every day?
Really at the base of it now, I'm a professional arm wrestler.
Yeah.
That's really where my base is. My family is older now. Like my oldest Milo is 22. 22, wow. Yeah. Auden is 20 and Haber 16.
Wow.
Jody and I still together.
Amazing.
Yeah. We're still living in the same place, not too far down the road from where we are now.
Yeah. Jody's doing well.
Jody's doing great. When I got out in 2016, a little bit turbulent now, but now I've really found my rhythm and I am like every day it's just getting better at holding hands. That's my main gig, man.
It's your gig, but it's also your passion, right? It's something that you've been doing for a long, long time. And maybe like share the journey. How did you get started in arm wrestling, and how were you able to maintain that while maintaining a professional career as an assaulter, and and crushing that aspect of it as well? How did you first find yourself doing arm wrestling for a sport, but then for a profession?
Yeah. So I was tiny kid, tiny.
Really?
Yeah. Tiny kid. So like we're talking like I was probably 3 or 4. And I was one of those kids I was a little scrapper when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like just ton of energy, just always just wanting to fight and throw things and see what I could pick up, and just little maniac kid.
Yeah.
And my grandmother, the legends have it, was the best arm wrestler in Alberta.
Come on.
I'm telling you. Yeah, seriously. So she used to let me arm wrestle her as a reward. Yeah. So like if I did something good, I'd get to arm wrestle her. Like if I went and got her apples or I helped her with the dishes, she'd let me arm wrestle her, and that was my reward. And so I started arm wrestling with her when I was like 4. And she wasn't around all the time. She'd come out and say, and I never beat her.
At what age did you finally beat her?
I never did.
Ever?
I never beat my grandmother. So I still remember, so she'd come out when I was little, like 4, 6, 7, and she was just still like, I was a little kid.
Yeah.
But then when I was 10, I was like, even when I was 10, I was like working out, like I was physical from an early age.
Yeah.
And I remember that I was like, okay, this, my feet, and she was like alcoholic and feeble and like shaking. And it was, we were going to have our arm wrestle again.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to dust her.
Get her. Yeah.
And she still beat me.
Come on.
Still beat me.
Amazing.
And that was the last time we arm wrestled. Next time I saw her, I was like, 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit different then.
Yeah.
So when did you start to fill out? Like when did, like how old
I was
were you?
late.
Yeah.
Super late bloomer. I was probably 10 pounds a year all the way until I was 25.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, just steady, 10 pounds a year all the way till I was 25. In high school, when I graduated, I was 6'2". I continued to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a teenager, you got into arm wrestling early.
So we arm wrestled like in public school, like just with our friends. In high school, and I wasn't the best. I was like middle of the pack, kind of like. Sometime in high school that changed.
And was there an event that changed it for you where you said, wait a minute, not only do I like this, I'm good at it, but I can make something of it?
I always liked it. The whole make something of it, that's a long process. I always loved doing it. I was into a lot of sports when I was young.
Yeah.
A lot of different sports. I was doing judo, basketball. But something about strength, like when I was a kid, I was really influenced by strength. Always loved strength, like strength and fighting. That's what my big draw was. Anything combative, I was just super into it. I saw, so in my parents' library there was pumping iron, and I remember I was like 4, flipping through those pages, seeing Arnold. I was like, wow, and like Arnold with the girl on his back. I was like, oh, and I knew from a super early age that I just wanted to chase that. Cool. And the real step for me was, there was a lot of little steps, but when I went out west after high school, right? And I worked on the oil field. And
how old were you? I
would have been like 18.
Wow, right out of high school.
Right out of high school.
Wow.
Yeah, right out of high school. I hitchhiked out.
Come on.
Yeah, I hitchhiked out. I hitchhiked out west twice. The first time I went directly to Red Deer, and I stayed with my grandmother. Yeah. Yeah, stayed at her place with my uncle, and they hooked me up with a job with the oilfield service company, Nowsco. Okay. And it just so happened that like the head guy in the welding shop was a pro. And to this day, probably one of the most physically impressive people I've ever met in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's a pro arm wrestler, and he's also working on the oil field, and he's an iron worker or welder by trade.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Dude was a monster. Like he was like a Wolverine, like 165-pound guy, looked like he was like 200 because he's all arms and like just impeccable condition, was a high-level martial artist, just used to kick the shit out of everybody. Yeah, and I thought he was the coolest guy. I used to just follow around, and I used to arm wrestle everybody back then, like when I was 18. And I could beat everybody. By the time I was 18, I was pretty strong. Yeah. But every time I'd beat somebody, they'd be like, yeah, but you can't beat Dion. Right? Yeah. So I'd follow Dion around, and Dion was like, yeah, whatever. Anyways, so Dion used me as a punching bag because he was a pro. Right. Right. So he'd get me over to his place every couple weeks or every 10 days, and he'd beat on me. Yeah. Which I loved. And did you know at the time, or did you realize at the time, looking back on it now, was he mentoring you? Was he coaching you? 100%. Yeah. He was great. If there was no Dion Langell, maybe I would have found out. I loved arm wrestling, but he was massively impactful on my entire life. Like if it wasn't for Dion, like, I mean, he brought me into sobriety. Like this guy was massively impactful on my life. Yeah, he actually encouraged me to join the military. Is that right? He did. And then, so
So you're in the oil fields. You're living with your grandmother,
Uh-huh.
and then how often are you traveling to work in the oil fields? Because does it work in weeks, or were you there full time?
So I, at the time, for that stint, I was like a shop guy.
Okay.
Okay. So I was mostly working the floor. And before I got to really go out and do gigs, spring breakup happened.
Okay.
Okay. So spring breakup happened and I came back home.
Oh.
Right. So spring breakup, the roads, when the roads freeze and melt,
Yeah.
they basically shut everything down
Right.
yeah. So I came back and it's at this time that I was visiting my buddy in Kingston and I just walked by the recruiting office.
And that's how it got started.
Yeah, that's it. I had no plan really. I had dreadlocks and like all messy and dirty. And I walked in, did the testing and they're like, we got a course started 3 days ago. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. Joined the Princess of Wales Own Regiment.
No way.
Yeah.
So they, even though they were ongoing already 3 days, they put you in.
Bumped me in.
Okay.
I joined the course 3 days late, and and that was the start of my military career.
Wow. So
Yeah.
at that point, were you still in contact with Dion?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I did my summer.
Yeah.
My QL2, QL3. I did it at RMC.
Right.
Did the reserve somewhere in Petawawa. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a big part for me
Yeah.
wanting to get to the hill
Okay.
because so it was 95.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the airborne regiment was disbanded.
That's right.
Right. And so they had them all in a holding platoon.
Right.
And so all the guys in the holding platoon, they taught the reserves that summer.
Oh, so you were taught by
Yeah.
airborne guys.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Super cool. Right. So it was a real treat for us. We just got super lucky.
Yeah.
So here are these like the coolest fucking dudes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, like I want to follow this guy.
Yeah.
Wherever he's going, I want to, you know who
And what was it? Because they were fit, they were hard charging, they were matter of fact, they didn't sugarcoat anything. Like what was it that
So I was like a 19-year-old guy,
Yeah.
20 in 95.
fit?
Yeah, they were just absolute. Look at all I wanted to do growing up was be an ass kicker.
Yeah.
That's it. The ultimate
Love it.
highest level of fighter I could be.
Yeah.
And look at sports is cool, but war is
Different.
it's a
Different.
different level,
Yeah.
right? So I wanted to be involved with that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you'll love this because you know the guys. So guess who my deck commander was?
I have no idea.
It was T-Bar.
Come on.
T-Bar was my deck commander.
T-Bar was my section commander in basic training.
Yeah,
so
man.
T-Bar
Yeah.
taught me
Right.
in
Yeah.
basic training in St. John.
Hardest dude.
Yeah.
Hardest dude. Right.
That's
so
crazy.
T-Bar was my section commander. And you know who really I was like, okay, because I heard them all talking about it because a lot of the guys there were getting ready to try out.
Right.
So Pete Schaefer.
Yeah, it was beauty.
Right. So
Yeah.
Pete Schaefer was like the overall warrant for
Yeah.
the whole thing. And I'm like, and you hear the stories about Pete
Yeah.
and what he did with the Pathfinder course. I don't
Yeah.
know if you know that story.
Yeah, he told us this.
Right.
Story.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, done. I'm like, at that point, I was like, okay, I need to make it to where those guys are going.
That's pretty cool because so T-Bar had an influence on you. Pete Schaefer had an influence on you.
Early.
And Pete Schaefer was our course one when I
Yeah.
was on SOAC.
Mine too.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
he's a beauty.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So just seeing these guys at an early age, I just thought, if I'm going to fight for the country, this is the team I want to be on,
Absolutely. Yeah.
with these people. And so then after that, I put in for transfer, right? I wanted to go regs right away.
Yeah.
I was 20 and I'm living at home again because I'm not out west. I'm back living at home. I have this crazy idea that I'm going to be an officer and you know me. So there's right. So that was a crazy idea. And, so I went back to school for a little bit, to try and, cause I don't even know if I graduated. That's kind of a joke around the house.
Okay.
So
No graduation.
I'm not
ceremony?
sure. It was that time of my life. It was pretty messy.
Okay. So you're still part of the Queens. So you're
Yeah.
in the reserve.
Princess of Wales.
Or Prince Wales.
Yeah.
All right. So you're with the Wales, and now you've had an exposure to JTF2.
Yeah.
And now you're thinking about going reg force and
Yeah.
then trying out for the unit.
Exactly.
So did you When you tried out for JTF2, were you still a reserve or did you transfer to the RCR?
No, so it's more complicated than that.
Okay, tell us.
Yeah. So I'm waiting and like the transfer back then, it took a while.
Yeah.
Like, and I just became very impatient and I was like, screw it. Like, I can't wait any longer. I'm going to go to Asia.
Okay.
And I'm going to live in a temple and I'm going to study martial arts.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I hitchhike all the way to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And I have like $200. Really. I think I had like $200 and I started hitchhiking from Picton where
Picton's great,
so hitchhiked all the way through it was so awesome. What a great experience. I feel like I met so many good people. You know how like a lot of people say, oh, there's a lot of bad in the world. There's a lot of good.
There's a lot of good.
There's a lot of good.
There's a lot of good, man.
Yeah.
I've been to like almost 50 countries in the world, man. And every culture has good people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it has shitheads.
Yeah. More good people.
I agree.
Yeah. So I was picked up and taken care of by Canadians, in my journey across, and got to Vancouver, went down to the docks, just trying to get on a boat.
Like what boat?
Dude, that was my plan. That was my plan. I'm like, I'm going to get on a boat. I'm going to work on the boat. They're going to take me across. I'm going to get to a temple. I'm going to find a way, like really like no plan.
Okay. So talk us through that piece. So how many people did you shake hands with and ask, hey, can I come on your boat and just do some jobs to get there?
I was in the harbor in the Vancouver harbor for about 4 or 5 days.
And where did you stay? Where did you live?
In a hostel.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
in a hostel, and towards the end, I was sleeping in an alleyway.
No way.
Yeah. Because I had a backpack. I had a with my military gear. Right, I took my military gear that I got from the reserves, and a couple nights I was in the hostel, but for the rest of the time, I was just sleeping in an alley. Yeah. Just trying to find a way to get on a boat to go across so I could fight. Because that's all I want to do. I wanted just to fight, be a fighter.
Sure.
Whether it was in the military, I wanted to go military.
Yeah, of course.
But
you were becoming impatient.
Yes.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So I'm down to like $40, I think. 40 or $50 left, and I'm like, man, this is gonna get real hard, real quick. And like the odd jobs that you can get, like as a 20-year-old, with maybe a high school education,
questionable.
Really bad. So I'm like, okay, abort. Hitchhike back to Nisku.
Nisku, where's that?
Nisku is north of Edmonton.
Okay.
It's the industrial park.
Okay.
So I got there on the Friday, I think, or the Thursday night of the May long weekend, and everything's shutting down. Everything's shutting down. I'm like, okay, so I set up shop. I've got up my sleeping bag and everything. I'm underneath this park bench.
Yeah.
And this dude comes up and he's like looking at these barbecues, and his kids were in the van. They're like, "Mommy, Daddy, look, a bum." And I'm like, no, I'm out here looking for work. I'm not a bum.
Yeah.
And this guy took me in, gave me a job.
Come on.
JL Fluids. I worked there for like 3 or 4 months until my transfer came in.
Okay.
Yeah, took care of me.
Amazing.
Good people out there. Kenny Retzler. I owe this guy so much.
Amazing.
Yeah. Then got in. So from there, I actually transferred to the PPCLI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I did PPCLI first.
Yeah.
Did Wainwright. Which sucked. Super sucked. Cold. Like.
What time of year did you do?
Yeah. Right through. Right.
Winter?
Yeah.
Same. Yeah, that's where I was.
Hell.
Yeah. January to May. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. A guy froze his dick. That's how bad it was.
It's bad.
Yeah, really bad.
For people that don't know and have never been to Wainwright, Alberta, in the wintertime, it is so cold. It's tough to even explain to people that maybe haven't experienced that type of cold before. It's so cold that you can hear the frost. You can hear your skin freezing if it's exposed for too long.
Yeah.
And like -20, -25, you think, that's not too bad. It's bad. Yeah, it's cold.
It was colder than that.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very often I found.
Well, I remember taking a picture, and I share this story with some people. I took a picture, 2 different pictures I've taken. One time it read 52 degrees Celsius. That was in Afghanistan. And the other time I took a picture, it read 45 degrees below.
Yeah.
And that was in Wainwright, Alberta.
Yeah,
so
man.
like that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So Wainwright, then so the bases were moving. So at that point, Calgary, people said I wasn't Calgary, and they're moving to Edmonton. Mm-hmm. So because just the timing and everything, we got lucky. So our entire course was on a rotation to Bosnia.
Okay.
So I went right to Bosnia. I was with Mitch. Anyways, we were on the first. He was in my debt the first deployment there.
Yep.
When I got back, my dad had cancer, and we had a farm, and so I put in for compassionate transfer. So that's when I went to RCR.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I transferred to RCR, and and then I really started to go after the hill.
So where you ended up in Petawawa, or because it was closer to home?
Yeah, 98. So I got to Petawawa in 98, went to 1 RCR. That's when, and that's around the time when Jody and I kind of were way more serious. Like, I met Jody in high school, but we started living together around that time.
Yeah.
The reg force there was pretty chill for me. I was more like just a sports guy.
Mm-hmm.
I took advantage of all those possibilities. Like I did the Ironman a couple times.
Yeah.
Season basketball. I basically went from sports team to sports team.
Yeah.
Just with the sole focus of getting my body ready for selection.
Right on.
Yeah. So it took me twice.
You did 2 selections?
I did. Yeah. The first one, it's quite well known. You never heard about my failure? Oh,
I may have.
I thought I would have told you this over the years.
Oh, you may have. Share the story.
It's terrible. It's terrible. So I did a couple things that were like super questionable that, and I saw my file.
Yeah.
My score was fine.
Yeah.
I had like major red flags.
Okay.
Major red flags. So I had 2 red flags the first time through. The first one was.
So just to clarify, did you finish the first one, or did they pull you?
No, I finished. I finished, although there was an investigation.
Okay.
but yeah, I did complete. I think that my file was probably quite heavily debated.
Yeah.
Because I know my score was good.
Okay.
And it's just that I did 2 completely dumb things.
Okay.
The first one was I stole codes.
Okay.
It was different back then.
Okay.
The codes were different. So on the doors, they were still using punch for some.
Okay.
Okay. So that, and the other one, the Hirsch.
Yeah.
Didn't need a card.
Okay.
So you could use the numbers.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I shouldn't.
We can edit that.
Yeah. Okay. So I stole his code.
Okay.
Yeah. I stole his code. So you know how they're like, okay, guys, go to this place.
Yeah.
So we were shortcutting it everywhere.
Okay.
Okay. So that was the problem. Okay. Because I didn't know. I thought I was supposed to do it.
Right.
So that was a bit of an issue. And then the next one was, which was far more serious. It was the last day.
Okay.
And I woke everybody up around like 3:00 in the morning.
Why?
Because I had a very vivid dream.
Oh.
So screwed up. Like the last, just completely.
Yeah, you're at that point. You're sleep deprived,
massively,
caloric deficit. You're not thinking straight.
Yeah. So I at times in my life have very vivid dreams, super vivid, and bordering on like, is it real?
Right.
Like I have a hard time sometimes,
okay,
especially when I just wake up.
Okay.
So, so I get up after, I forget who it was. It was one of the instructors came in. They're like, there's a hostage situation. You gotta be in the gym right now, and you gotta have this and this and this and this.
Sure.
And so,
yeah.
Remember? Oh, and
yeah,
they were my roommates, and I got him. I went over and like, did you guys see that guy? And they're like, what guy? was there a guy in here? And it's like, okay, well, you got to get everybody up. So I go around, and there was one dude who was like really checked out. Like he was like a sergeant major, and he was like the guy that everybody's looking to. And I told, by the time we got everybody together, I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm a bit of a disaster. I don't know if this happened or not. I think it did. I'm all messed up.
So you got everybody awake.
Yeah.
And roughly how many people are still?
There's probably like 10 of us left.
Okay. So
10
guys that are all on the last day.
Yeah.
You wake everybody up, and then did you guys go to the gym?
So we went.
Okay.
And so we're sitting against the wall.
Yeah.
Right, with our stuff and doing our, and it's becoming more and more obvious.
That it happened.
Yeah. Happened. So, and I remember, like, I was down the end, everybody's walking past me to go to the bathroom,
Sure.
and I just feel so guilty, and I'm like, oh man. And anyways, they came in, they're like, who told you to come in here? And I'm like, yeah, it was me. Anyway, so I didn't make it that year.
Oh,
No, I had to come back.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's serial 1. That's your first attempt.
Yeah.
So you go back to there.
Yeah, I go back next year.
Okay, so you regroup.
Yeah.
You know, and during that now year, so you're waiting for the next opportunity.
Yeah.
You kind of thinking about decisions that you made.
Yeah.
What are you thinking now to prepare yourself for the next one? Because I mean, at that point, you went through it.
Yeah.
Right. So you know what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say? How did you prepare yourself differently for the second one?
Really, there weren't a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Really just be in great shape, be healthy.
Good.
Yeah.
Right on. So second attempt, no problem.
No problem.
Good.
Yeah. Second attempt went very smoothly. And and then I got on course, and
How old were you?
I would have been 25 or 26.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I would have been 26 when we were done. I would have been 25 when I did it, 26 when we completed the course.
And at that time, similar to myself, I think the selection was fall, and then course kicked off in January.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A little bit different now, but.
Yeah. And then when we went on leave after the course, we were moving, right? So I was moving all our stuff. Jody and I were in the queues here in Ottawa, just starting to move in, and the pager goes off, right? That's 9/11.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 9/11 was my first official day of work.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. That's a memorable
right
time of life.
Yeah. So everything changed.
Mm-hmm.
We went from being mostly domestically used, with missions, to completely an outer area, focused unit,
That's awesome that you lived through that experience.
Yeah.
And you also saw the transitions with the unit as well.
Yeah.
Massive changes happened in
everything changed.
A couple of years after 9/11.
Everything changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then living in the whirlwind. Until I got out in 2016.
So from 2001 to 2016, you're functioning with the unit, going through the different cycles, IR, out of area. What's and it's probably tough to answer that question directly, but is there a time during that phase at JTF2 that really stands out and something that's like, for listeners that can take something from that? What I mean by take something from that, your experience that you share with whoever's listening and watching, how they can translate that into their world, right? Because what people don't know is, at the unit there's high expectations to perform day in and day out. We're given specific tasks that sometimes we have a lot of ambiguity, sometimes we have very little information, sometimes we have to create opportunities for ourselves. Is there a moment or maybe a period of time in that window between 2001 before you got out 2016 that is something that you're proud of, something that you maybe remember vividly that you learned something from that could translate to others?
Oh, there's so much there.
It's tough. Yeah. It's a wide open question, but I mean, your first deployment, for example, was most likely very different than your last deployment. Right.
Yeah, very much. there's a lot that you can take away. The first thing that I just want to put out there, just to be completely clear, is I was so honored to be there.
Yeah.
You know, really, and also would be super clear that I'd still be there if I could.
Yeah.
You know, life just got complicated, and you know, but it's a place that most people, I think, who get there don't ever want to leave.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
loved every minute of it. And I
Me
would do
too.
it again in a heartbeat.
Me too. You know, politics can be confusing, but the group of people and the overall gesture is, I'd still be there.
Yeah.
Good. If I could still do it. But unfortunately, I couldn't pass a Cooper's to save my life. So that's completely out of the question. I think that the things that really is important that you can really take away from service like that is there's a few things. You know, surrounding yourself with good people is really important.
Yeah.
And that place does the work for you, you know.
It sure does. It
Yeah.
attracts good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the selection process and something, you're going to be surrounded by good people, which you don't really realize,
Yeah.
you know, how awesome that is until probably you get out.
I agree.
But that's invaluable. So that's really cool. So it just tells you just to hold on to great people in your life.
Yeah.
Another thing that I learned a lot in the unit is flexibility, because a unit like that, you're never gonna have great routine.
Yeah.
Your routine is always gonna be thrown off this way or that way, you know, at a moment's notice. So learning how to make the most of opportunities that are gonna come is really something that you're gonna learn. Like if you have a minute, it revolves a lot. My life is a lot during that period, the military service, my family, and arm wrestling. So I was always trying to keep my arm wrestling moving forward also.
Right.
You know, and when your routine is disrupted, that becomes tougher. So you have to so I'm working out with rocks. I'm doing anything I can to find a way to keep things moving forward. And I think the thing that is probably the most important thing of all that a military life will teach you is how important belief in mission is. It's the most important thing. If you believe in your mission, there won't be a problem. You will find a way. There will be a way to get around it. That you will create it. You will overcome it. And that's something that you need to carry forward into anything you do in life, is just to believe very, very much in what you're doing. And if you're not sure, you need to refine it. You need to go back, and maybe it's not for you, but either way, I think that, belief in what you're doing is super important in life.
And did you find your time at the unit, was that belief challenged? And if so, how did you find ways to kind of navigate that challenging thought or feeling that you might have been having?
It was, yeah, for sure. Like, look, I'm a proud Canadian. I think that Canada's a great country. I think that, you know, we swing over 50%, which is really all that matters, as long as you're over 50. I think that what I tried to do was, I think there's two strategies. You know, you can educate yourself a lot, and the other one is you can just have blind faith. You know, and that's really what I tried to do, because it's a lot of work to educate yourself fully. And I just always knew that the guys around me and the guys above me, I respected and I believed in, and I just assumed that carried forward.
Yeah. There's that's used that element of trust, you know, where maybe you're not we may not always be wholeheartedly invested into what it is that is expected of us, but when you're sharing that with guys that you trust, you know, knowing that you're kind of in that together, you're very seldom alone. You know, you've got quality people to your left and to your right. You know, whether or not internally you're battling with, why are we doing this, and is it the right thing to be doing?
Yeah.
You know, we get on with it because at the end of the day, you're in the military. You do as you're told.
Yeah.
But because you're surrounded by high quality people, it just makes it a little bit more tasteful. Yeah.
Over the course of my career, right? So I did 20, right? But, you know, by the time, you know, when you start to get, further into the tours, going away from your kids, it starts to become a bigger ask every time, like you're getting pulled in a lot of directions, and you start to question things, you start to become eroded. And I'll openly admit that my mental resilience started to take a hit, sometime in my later career,
Yeah.
to where I just, just distracted.
Right.
Distracted from the goal, distracted from, what really we were there. And it just, to me, it got messy, and I felt like I was squirming a little bit.
Yeah.
Still really happy, loved the work, but the deeper purpose for me was beginning to erode slightly. Yeah.
I found for me, there was like 3 distinctive phases, and my why and my purpose changed. At the beginning, my why was I wanted to do the job with the best of the best, right? That was the why, and that's what motivated me to want to do selection and work amongst some of the best in the Canadian Armed Forces, but also some of the best in the world. And then I feel like maybe midway through my career, after a couple of deployments, my why kind of changed a little bit, and I felt more like I just wanted to be the best at putting bad people away, right? Like I was really motivated to almost be as surgical with being a weapon as I possibly could. So that became the why, just refining all of the base. The base has already been established, right? So that foundation was solid. Now I want to get really, really good at being a weapon.
Yeah.
And then I'd say the third phase it was very clear for me is when the drawdown in Afghanistan happened and we saw a change in political will. My why became, well, I can see that there's no government support to want to deploy us and get us into those fights. So then my why became, well, I have a ton of experience. I want to share it with the next batch, the next generation of assaulters.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then close to the end of the career before I left, similar to yourself, if there was a war going on, I'd probably still be in.
Yeah.
But then my why was like, there's so much more to life than this. So I really feel like there was 3 phases where I want to work with the best, then I want to be the best. I want to be the best weapon. And then it was, I want to share the information with the next generation, And then close to the end of my career, it was like, I feel like now it's time where I'm still young enough to do something different.
Yeah.
With no guilt.
Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. I love this part, like the why. It's super important.
Yeah.
I think that I joined because I think that humanity, I think we're one thing, right? Like we're all one thing all together, and we all play a different role. I just knew from an early age that I was a scrapper.
Yeah.
Like I just knew, like I'm happy in the fight. I'm happy thinking about the fight.
Yeah.
Like that's what I like to do. It's where I perform probably my best. And I just knew, and I also knew that this was you could use this any number of ways. And I thought, to join the forces, I will add to the stability that humanity needs to do really incredible things. Like really awesome stuff can only happen in a stable civilization, And towards the end, I mean, the Afghan mission, I had a hard time.
Yeah.
Just rationalizing that was part of that. But I also, I'll say I had a hard time, but I'll be the first person to say that I never educated myself. It's just a feeling I had, and I'm well aware that the decisions at these higher levels are so complex. And
yeah, but I guess I would ask the question I would pose to you, like the feelings that you were having, those emotions that you were having, those are real, and nobody can take them from you, and those are yours, right? But would you agree or disagree that sometimes those feelings that we have and those thoughts that we're having based on external factors that are outside of our control, those external factors have an effect on how we approach tomorrow?
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like because it's easy for us to look in the rearview mirror, look behind us, and say, that was awesome. That was, how come we can't have that? Like, that was great. Why can't we relive that? But that does no good for us because it's in the past. And then we look a little bit too far in the future. If you don't have a crystal ball, we don't know what's coming around the corner.
Right.
And what happens is we often miss right now. Right. And then these emotions and these feelings that we're having, it ends up becoming a bit of a looping effect where external factors are influencing the way I'm thinking about this thing or the way I'm feeling about this thing. But sometimes we forget, man, we have today to, work amongst some great people and just keep pushing forward. It's tough. It's a tough challenge for sure. But I know I can't speak for everybody, but for me personally, the number one reason that I got out, the number one reason was because of what was happening on from a political level.
Yeah.
That was the main reason. It wasn't because of the unit. It wasn't because of the people in the unit. It was none of that.
Right. I think that's very common.
Yeah.
For me, the actual reason that I got out was arm wrestling.
Fair. It's awesome.
But it wasn't for the reason you maybe think. It's because, so it was 2000, I think, in 14.
Yeah.
And we were slated for Iraq. And it was, and we were supposed to burn off our leave. We were supposed to burn off our leave early. And the thing is I was like, I'm not going to burn off my leave because, I know that you can be slated for a tour, not happen. And I'm like, because if it doesn't happen, I want to be in this show. Back then there was this show, Game of Arms, and it was a big deal in arm wrestling.
And where would this have been held? Where's that?
In the States.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that was like, I think that they're like, Devon's not burning his leave. Okay. All right. And then I think that somebody, not to mention any names, but there was a couple people who were using the unit as a reference. So they were having businesses on the outside while they were serving. Yeah. And they're like, hire me because I'm also this. Okay. And I think that the unit had like a hard freak out about it. And they basically did a big shutdown on anybody with big extracurricular. Okay. Right. So I was brought in and I was told, no more arm wrestling. And I was like, come on, man. I've been arm wrestling since I was 4 years old. My grandma, telling me I can't arm wrestle. I'm like, I'm going to have a real hard time with that. Yeah. So they decided to post me to RCR. Okay. And I'm like,
that's in Gagetown.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm like, come on, man. Yeah. Like, and I talked to Mike and I'm like, am I screwing up? And they're like, no. And I'm like, come on, what's going on here? And anyways, we negotiated and they decided to give me a year's leave without pay. Okay. Right. So I took a year's leave.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I remember that. Went and
all in.
Yeah. All in. So that was a tricky year for me in arm wrestling because, I went to zero salary and we weren't rich. Yeah. So we were picking apples and eating sardines and I got lucky. I did win that year. So financially it made sense. And I had a lot of help. I had some guys on the outside that, Alec. Alec.
Yeah. I know of him. I never shook his hand, but I know what you're talking about.
Right. There's some guys who really helped me and my family and made it through that year. Went back to work after the years. Yeah. And went into the Sergeant Major's office and I'm back, ready to do my job. And he's like, you still gonna arm wrestle? And I said,
when I can. Yeah.
And he's like, we'll put you in recruiting.
I remember that. Yeah, you were recruiting for a bit.
Yeah. So my days as an assaulter were finished. Yeah. I could no longer, have the low profile that was required. So that was it for me. Okay. Yeah.
So then you went to recruiting for a bit. I remember that.
1 year.
1 year. How was that? What was that experience like?
Stupid. Oh, yeah. No, it was great. It was great. It's not being an assaulter, I didn't join to be a recruiter. It's cool. You get to go around all the bases and you see all the young guys and people who want, and it's cool, right? You get to tell them how great it is, and it is.
Influence the next, the next batch and motivate them. Yeah.
But that was it.
But that novelty wears off.
Well, it's not why I joined.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly,
I joined to be a breacher, and that was about it. You know, I never went past that, and that's where I wanted to stay. And but yeah, so that was the end of my military career.
So that last year before you departed, you were in recruiting, then you release, and then now you're full time.
Full time.
You're at home. You're wrestling. You're traveling. You're doing seminars. What are you doing for folks that may be interested?
Yeah.
You know, because you know you've got a high profile. People know you. You have thousands and thousands of followers. Like, people are inspired by not only what you do, but you know, when you speak, they listen. So where did the next year take you?
So back in 2016, I was able to start working with Kydex, and the reason I wanted to start working with Kydex was because I was a left-handed shooter. Finding left-handed gear was extremely hard, so I just put two and two together and started working with Kydex, making left-handed holsters for myself. From there, quote-unquote, refined my process. Started making gear for buddies that were cops in military, and it literally snowballed from there.
Everything that we do is handmade by shooters for shooters, and you know, there's a lot of other Kydex companies out there, and you know, they are also for shooters by shooters. But we take the time and we care about what we do, and I think that shows in our products.
Like working here, this is our home. We brought it from home and we created a home. Our kids have worked here, so this is our home.
Well, yeah. I mean, getting out is a bit turbulent. Yeah. You know, but yeah, I just tried to pour all my energy into, you know, you talk about being a weapon, and that's so cool, man. Like, I love that too. You know, being a weapon is one of the coolest things I think you can do with your life. Yeah. You know, to be a weapon for a task, to be a weapon for your country, for, you know, it's awesome. Yeah. That I couldn't do that anymore. So I just took all that energy and I was like, okay, well, I'll be a weapon on the arm wrestling table. Sure. You know, sure. So arm wrestling is an interesting sport, you know, because we don't actually hurt each other. Right. Okay. But make no mistake, like, it has all those elements in it. Right. You know, it's like a very safe little place where you can fight super hard. Yeah, it's not as technical, as complicated as assaulting is, but there's pieces that you can bring into it. And yeah, and that's what I did. I just honed my arm wrestling. I enjoyed the family. I enjoyed the community. I enjoyed the sport. You know, growing up as a kid, my parents were kind of interesting. So my mother was German. My father was Canadian. So my grandparents were German. My grandmother was right in there. And so there was a lot of debate all the time about war and war and sport, you know, the differences and the similarity. War is a practice where we destroy and we, you know, maim. Yeah. And sport is like the civilized practice. You know, it's where you exercise all that stuff, but you do it to build relations, to build community, to bring people together, to strengthen. Yeah. So it was really nice for me to grow community, to be with people, to get strong together. And I did that all over. I've been doing that for a long time, but after I got out, that was like all I did.
And what would you say, you know, taking away experiences from being an assaulter that you applied to arm wrestling, the mindset, the competition, the hunger to improve and continue training? Is there something that you learned from being an assaulter that you applied to arm wrestling domain?
Oh, it's so many things. I love DA. You got a great brand, buddy. I mean, I viewed it as a DA. Right. I view it as I'm going and doing a hit. Yeah. And it's a long planning cycle. Okay. So I'm doing a hit and it's in 3 months. I got 3 months to plan this hit. Right. And so I do my recce. Yeah. I see my guy. I learn him. I understand him.
Yeah.
Everything I can know. There's myself. Okay, I'm training. I try and feel the interaction. Everything. It's the same. It was the same as going on hits for me.
Yeah.
And all the same stuff that we learned, like, when the first tour that I did.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say the first combat tour that I did,
Right.
because there was some stuff beforehand, but
Right.
2005, and it was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Like it was definitely a good tour. I came back from that one, I'll say pretty rattled, like in terms of like my psychology, like just because it was real serious, and it was just
Sure.
it was just my first one.
Yeah.
But by the time I went back a second time, I was completely different. Like I found a way to change,
Yeah.
like when I was on the hit, like I wasn't really the guy I was most of the time.
Right.
Like I was like, I let myself feel differently. I let myself behave differently. And I brought all that stuff into the sport.
Cool.
Like, yeah. So all that stuff that you do with your brain, like when you go on hits and working up to it and switching over, I was
Yeah.
doing all that stuff, and
Yeah, amazing.
worked great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked great.
It's funny you mention that. Like I sometimes use the comparison, getting ready to climb into the cage for an MMA fight and getting ready to climb onto the bird for a DA
Right.
mission. That feeling was very, very similar.
Yeah.
In the fights that I did really well, I allowed myself to flip that switch and look at the opponent in the cage more like an adversary that you would see overseas. Yeah, I mean, it's safe. There's a referee.
Yeah.
There's some set of rules and stuff. So I'm not trying to kill him per se, but I'm trying to hurt him, And I found those fights were the ones that I did really well. And that was with the ability to make that switch and then transfer into something that's a little bit different than who I am as a human,
Still to this day, before I go on stage,
Yeah.
I sometimes do an entry or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
I switch to different posture. Like
Yeah.
I still do it.
Yeah. Right on.
I still do it. Yeah,
And it helps you shift.
it does.
It's awesome.
Yeah, posture. Yeah, all that stuff. You just turn into a fighter.
Nah, that's amazing.
Mhm.
So what does your kind of daily routine look like for training? So if you have a match coming up in 3 months, we'll say,
Yeah.
how does your training, what does your training look like Monday to Friday?
Yeah. So my stuff has evolved a ton. It's changed a ton. And you got to keep in mind, I've been doing it since I was 4.
Right.
Okay. Very recreationally. By the time I was in the forces as a regular force dude, like I was already all over it. Like I'd already won my first nationals when I was with RCR.
Okay.
Okay. I'd already been to worlds when I was with the regs. When I got to JTF, right, there was no more of that. I was kind of on the weekends when I could fit it in.
Right.
And I just went pro at that point because before the military was actually giving me duty. Like they were putting me on duty when I was going and competing.
Okay.
Yeah, but there was none of that, right? So I've been doing it a long time,
Right.
and my training has evolved. Like I just turned 50, and I might not look like I look pretty awesome, but I'm a total mess, man. Like everything is a mess, and I've just gotten over the years more and more specialized to a point now where I'm probably one of the most specialized athletes you'll meet. So, I could talk you through like a ton of stuff, but now when I wake up, I'm pretty much, I'll maybe do some rehab, but really the central focus for my entire day is practice. Like the entire day revolves around me getting with people and arm wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of the energetic focal point.
And do you have training partners, go-to guys that you'll arm wrestle with on a consistent basis?
We are in an amazing place for arm wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Ottawa.
Really?
It's great. Yeah, we have 5 clubs.
Right.
Actually, sorry, we have more than 5 clubs, but you can arm wrestle Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Wow.
Yeah. And it doesn't hurt that my kids are
Yeah, they're
arm
into it.
wrestling
Yeah.
too, and like so we can train together anytime we need. But yeah, like tonight. So when we're done here, I'm going to Carleton University.
Okay.
Yeah, and and I'll train super hard. So I'll do typically these days. I'm doing a super high intensity, very hard arm wrestling workout.
Okay.
And the rest of the day, when it comes to training, is basically trying to put together the pieces, trying to rehabilitate myself, just so I can do that again tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you had a couple surgeries. How is the body? You said it's a mess right now, but how's the body feel day to day? Like, are you, when you say you do your rehab or prehab to get the day started, is there a regimented thing that you do just to get the body moving the way you need it to?
Yeah, I have a circuit that I'll run.
Okay.
And it's totally arm wrestling specific. And I've got a lot of these. I've got a lot of different things that I play with, a lot of different things I go through. And it's all, Randy, I have given up trying to think that I'm going to live forever, like with my body, I'm like, basically I'm this rose,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to make this rose be as beautiful as possible, knowing that eventually the roses are going to wilt off and fall away. And, everything is to try and get me to win world titles.
Amazing.
I'm just trying to win as many world titles as I can before I pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
So supplements, diet, nutrition, supplements, anything you do or what do you do to keep it dialed in, or do you at all?
Yeah, there's a ton of things. I'm far down the road with most of that stuff. Really anything I can. And I am lucky now that I've got people who are super smart that work with me and help me with all sorts of things. Nutritionally, is probably the worst at it. I try and stay on top of that as good as I can, but I could probably do better. Jody takes pretty good care of me mostly. And the dietary thing changes.
Yeah.
Because I'm either competing in the open or I compete in the weight division.
Okay, and open, that's literally, you could be any weight, any size.
So the strategy changes.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot. Just really the simple way to look at it is carbs.
Right.
When I'm a weight division guy, I don't eat as many carbs.
Yeah.
And
what are the allowances? What's the weight, divisions?
So the ones that I can kind of hit right now is the 105 kilo, which is 231, and the 253, 115 kilo. And so I am the current world champ of the 105. I'm undefeated in the 115.
Yeah.
But I haven't defended in a bit, so I got to go back down and hit that one.
Okay.
If you're not in it for a year, they scrub you.
Okay.
But I think I'm that guy too.
Okay.
And right now, on paper, I'm ranked number 2 in the open.
Okay.
So it changes depending on what I got going on. And in I guess in 10 days from now, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm in Chicago.
Next week.
Yeah.
Competing.
Yeah. And now I got the left hand going again. I didn't train my left. Talk about specialization for 6 years.
6 years.
I just can you see the difference in my hands now? Are they different size? Do you think they're different or do you think they're the same?
Pretty close. Your right one's a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger.
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
So for 6 years,
Yeah.
I only trained my right.
Wow.
Yeah. So for the last year and like couple months, I've started to get my left going again. So it's back in competition. So this is for number 4 in the open.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's in Chicago next week.
Next
Good
week.
for you, man. What's the name of the event?
It's East versus West. I think it's like 18 or 19.
Okay.
So arm wrestling world totally changed. So back when we were together and before that, arm wrestling world was way different. There was high level stuff. There were big leagues, but they were way more disjointed. So during most of my career, the Western guys would compete a lot against each other. Eastern guys would compete against each other. And the motivation to cross that ocean
Yep.
was difficult from a financial
Sure.
and a contractual perspective, because a lot of guys get locked into contracts, and the leagues, there wasn't much crossover.
Right.
Okay. Every once in a while guys would, but I didn't a lot. And what happened, it was interesting during COVID, basically everything fell apart.
Okay.
All the existing leagues, all the existing structures crumbled. And the rebirth of arm wrestling was incredible. Yeah. So when arm wrestling came back, during COVID, came back really nice.
Right
So
on.
we got a lot of traction during COVID. I think people just spent a lot of time on their computers and saw a lot of YouTube, and arm wrestling grew significantly.
Sure.
Yeah.
And is it a sport that is continuously growing? Do you see like more and more every year? You see
tremendous.
Yeah. So younger athletes, a mixture. What do you see?
It's crazy, man. Like the growth in the sport during my career has been just ridiculous. So like when I started, clubs would be small. Like if your club had 10 guys,
That was big.
it was pretty awesome.
Right.
Pretty awesome. And when you go to tournaments, there would be the arm wrestlers, and maybe they'd have their girlfriends or their moms or,
Sure.
And now we're like filling arenas,
Wow.
with fans. Yeah. And you go to clubs, and they're like, I go to a club like Ottawa High Hookers right here.
Yeah.
We got like 100 guys.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, it's crazy. Like, yeah, all the clubs in the city, they're well attended. Let's just tell you, like the Ottawa itself
Yeah.
has a club practice every night.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's-
Well
wow.
attended. Yeah.
I
So
would never thought of.
yeah, the sport's blown up.
And these athletes, they pay. It would be similar to like a jiu-jitsu club where they pay a membership fee.
Nobody's not arm wrestling is really cool like that. There's not a lot of money changing hands.
Right.
Really. Like for memberships and stuff.
Yeah.
All the clubs that I go to,
Yeah.
I'm not paying anything. And I'm not a special guy either. Like
Yeah.
nobody's paying anything.
Okay.
We got a donation thing, like, and the club takes care of itself.
Right.
But no.
Hmm.
And we talk about it, and I think it's best to keep it that way, because we want you to come.
Yeah.
We want you there.
Yeah.
Like we are each other's workout equipment.
Right. Right.
Like if there's some kid who, is 16 or 17 and he doesn't have the whatever 10 or 15 bucks that we charge or whatever,
Mhm.
we want him there.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to turn anybody. And I think everybody kind of feels the same way, mostly in the sport.
Yeah.
So it's kind of unique that way. Arm wrestling is probably one of the typically there are clubs that do charge,
Right.
but it's not common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but when you're on the world stage, I mean,
Yeah.
you guys are.
Oh no, we're getting paid.
Yeah, you're getting.
Yeah,
paid
yeah,
well,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, no, when it comes to that, like when it comes to competition,
Yeah.
yeah, there's money.
Yeah. Good.
There's money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened was after COVID, these new leagues got created, King of the Table and East versus West. And for a while, they were like kind of competing leagues.
Okay.
And they were international. So now the whole thing got flipped, and now you have the best guys in the world coming together, and
Right
pretty
on.
much every 6 weeks.
Every 6 weeks.
Every
Wow.
6 weeks, the best guys in the world are going at it. And so now EVW Sports owns both of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you'll go to a typical event, you'll have like half the matches are world title shots.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
High level.
Man.
High level.
So when you're preparing for Chicago, will it be after that event before you'll compete again, or do you already know 6 months from now or 8 months from now?
There's like long-term planning, which is always inaccurate,
Right.
But the thing is you got two arms.
Yeah.
So you can kind of,
Bounce back and
yeah.
forth. Yeah.
So I know who I'm competing at, in Chicago, obviously, and
Yeah.
I know who I'm competing at in 6 weeks. That's a big one.
That's the big one.
So left hand is going to be cool, but the right hand is really, it's like where I identify myself with,
Yeah.
really excited about it. It's number 2 in the world, a guy called Vitaly Laletin,
Okay. Where's he from?
Russia, Siberia.
Nice. Have you competed again before?
We've played on the practice table, and he just pulverizes me. He's incredible. He's like 6'8", 6'9", about I think he's sitting around 340.
Wow.
Been arm wrestling since he was like 13. Multiple time. Everybody in this league,
Yeah.
multiple time world champion.
Wow.
Nobody is in East versus West who hasn't touched the top already.
Cool.
Like, it's a
That's
very
cool.
high level league.
Yeah.
And this match has been a long time coming. Everybody's accusing me of ducking him,
Oh yeah.
being scared of him. And
Oh wow.
it's gonna
So
be.
this is gonna be a good
Oh,
one.
it's gonna
Fireworks.
It's gonna be a good one.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
for you, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome. You got
happy
some
about
big
it.
things coming up.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah, and it's simple. Lets me live very peacefully. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
Good, buddy. It's
Yeah.
good. Happy for you.
yeah, good times.
So aside from arm wrestling, obviously takes up the majority of your time. Kids are doing great, family's good, which is good.
Yeah.
What requests do you get, or what else kind of pulls you in other directions?
Yeah. It's pretty cool, when you think of the bigger picture stuff. Like, I am really happy doing the art. It's a very simple way. It's really peaceful for
Mhm.
me. But yeah, there are other things. There's things that I'm drawn to that are so big that it probably borderlines on schizophrenia.
Mm.
Like I have some ideas that are really large, and I've been lucky to have gotten to meet people who are kind of involved in it, and I kind of am trying, and it's newer, but I'm trying to direct things, with my life so that I can be of assistance to these really big missions. And
Mhm.
to me, they're almost like religious
Right.
to the degree of importance.
Do you? I know before the cameras kind of started there, we were chatting about the Joy Smith Foundation. Do you?
Oh yeah, Joy Smith is great. Joy Smith is really cool. Joy Smith is, the anti-human trafficking
Yeah.
here in Canada,
Yeah.
and yeah, awesome. And I hope that as Canadians we really embrace everything that they're trying to do, and I hope that we can get behind projects like that and just make Canada a better place.
Yeah.
Just clean up
Yeah.
these obvious, things that we don't even need. We don't need these people in Canada.
Yeah.
Anybody who does this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
like it, when we were working, it always baffled me that we didn't have the death sentence in Canada.
Yeah.
I could never sat right with me that we could go to another country and hand out death sentences. But even like if we found the most vile and putrid human possible,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have the authority to kill our own, I thought that was horribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that we are able to change that and actively start to declare war on our own soil if required.
I agree, man. There's a lot of things going on in our own country right now that,
Yeah.
and we've got a ton of talent from coast to coast that can clean up the garbage that's in our own backyard.
Yeah.
I've had some great conversations with other people about, well, policy needs to change or this needs to change. Well, then change it.
Change it.
Change it.
Change it.
Yeah. Like there's decisions.
I don't think anybody can object.
No.
Like-
in decisions that are, I say less important, but definitely when you talk about the value of human life, it's a pretty important topic.
Yeah.
And if that means it's a stroke of a pen or, the click of the enter button to make a change, then man, let's do it.
I don't see the complication.
Yeah.
When a person is so clearly evil and contrary to what we are
Mm-hmm.
as a society, that even in jail they're killed,
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't have a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
We should actively clean it. So yeah, so I'm involved with them, and anything I can ever do there, I'll certainly be right at the front. But there's bigger projects, and this is where it gets really complicated, really, really complicated. And I'll probably dedicate a lot of my energy to just being a part of this. And I want to make sure that if there's something I can do, and I think that there are pieces, but it's funny even to talk about. But I think that as a species, as a humanity, I mean, our first goal is to live,
Mm-hmm.
to continue to live, to survive. I think that we talk about many things, and I think that what is really important always whether you're young, whether you're old, is to be a part of something and to have an awesome mission. Because I love things that we did. There's some things that we did that I still hold on to so strongly.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the sayings that I just loved, and it took me a while to really understand it, was mission before self. It took me a long time to really understand what that meant. I remember when I was working, mission before self, yeah, okay, sacrifice yourself to complete the mission. You know, give of yourself to receive the mission. But I started to understand it differently as I aged. Mission before self, actually, we are our mission. That's all that we leave behind. You know, the mission is actually, you are nothing. Yourself, you will melt into the rest of us.
Yeah.
The mission is our direction. The mission is where we are going.
Right.
So as Canadians, as people, you know, a mission is what unites us. A mission is what brings us together. And the mission as Canadians is complicated. There's many things, you know, but that's the thing that happened to me when I got out, is my mission redefined a little bit. And when I think of what we need as human beings, the first thing is survival. We need to live. We need to continue to live. So all things that kind of lead to that is what we should embrace and chase. And there's some things that are really complicated, really complicated when you think of that in a long structure.
Sure.
You know, when you think of things that like insurance policy,
Right.
like when you think of like what's going to happen to our planet, like, and steps to take and directions to go that take us forward, much forward to different places, you know. And it's difficult to speak about, but there are pieces that are very, very important to get us there. They're in the fields of AI. They're in the fields of genetics. These are probably, over the next couple hundred years, probably the tools that we will have to grow and master to give humanity that ability to survive, you know, past our planet, which really as a species we should think about as a collective mission for all of us. It's a very big mission.
Oh yeah, it's a mindset. A mindset needs to change, in my opinion. Needs to change in terms of when you talk about mission before self. In a lot of Canadians, they only give a shit about what's right in front of them. They only give a shit about the likes that are happening on their social media. Not everybody, generally speaking. So we can find a way to unite Canadians. We're on the right path. But there's so many people who I, chat with, who have no clue to what's going on in the real world or even in their own country. But they will tell you all the statistics on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that's cool. Look at and I am so happy for people who can do that. Really, I'm so happy.
I think it's amazing that they find a way to compartmentalize that stuff so it doesn't break them down.
It's great.
But think about the soil that we share. That's the way I look at it. Like we as Canadians, we share this world. We share this country with others. It's not about us all of the time. And I get frustrated and I try not to let it bother me too much, but sometimes it does. I wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, staring at the ceiling. My wife is like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I don't know. Am I fucked up? Am I the one?"
You are fucked up. Right?
Yeah. Am I the one that's got these issues? Am I seeing things differently? And she said, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" Like, see what's going on in Canada. I'm like, how can this even be? And how can we not, as a collective, do something better? Just be better, Canada. Be fitter. Be stronger. Look out for your neighbor. Be kind to one another. Like, why is it that it's such a difficult thing? But really, it's simple. It's simple in terms of theory and practicality. If we're able to get outside of our own selves once in a while and just actually ask the question, how's my neighbor doing? Is there anything I can do to make them a little bit happier? You know?
Yeah. I'm lucky. You know, I feel very blessed. Really.
Oh, likewise.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, man. I love my life.
Yeah.
I love my life. And I'm very blessed. I'm very fortunate to be able to get to do what I'm doing. But sometimes, sometimes it's just like, look around at what's going on and say, how do we allow this to happen? And because it has happened, okay, how are we going to right this wrong? And I could give examples, but my point of where I'm going with this is I agree with uniting, and I agree with just doing better as a Canadian collective, where with positive intentions and with righteous movements, we can make this country amazing. And I still think it is amazing, but it could be doing so much better.
Unifying purpose.
Yeah. Like, I think if you were to ask 10 people, 10 people from across the country, coast to coast, you ask them, what does Canada represent? Like, what is it what do they stand for? What's Canada's mission statement? You'd get 10 different answers. I don't think that we have a united front on where we are as a nation and where we want to be. I don't. And I think we could do better at that.
Well, where do you think we should?
I think we should be in a position where we can help each other, and we look within our own borders and see how much talent we have and how many good people we have, and come together to create solutions to problems.
What do you see as the biggest threats?
Threats? I would say fentanyl crisis, drugs. Yeah, drugs, where they're coming from, who's influencing political movements, where is that coming from? And I think that stuff can change. And I think it's going to take some heavy hitters to clean out the garbage. It's going to take strategic effect. It's going to take surgical effect. But I think it needs to happen, and it needs to happen 10 minutes ago. And I know that's a topic that we could chat 3 or 4 hours about.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's complicated.
It is complicated. But my point is, when we as Canadians, we see that there's a problem, we somehow try to come up with a collective solution to fix that problem, rather than just pointing the finger and saying it's this person's fault or that person should do something about it. We all have a responsibility to do something about it.
So your responsibility is to teach people how to be better warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it may sound corny, but I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe that if we have the ability to fight, be good at it.
Yeah.
So when that incident happens on our own soil,
Yeah.
we're not looking for somebody else to solve our problems.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it would be naive to believe, like, that won't happen in Canada. Careful.
Yeah.
Careful. I think it's closer than a lot of people think. And you just look at the desperation of what's happening in any major city across the country. People are getting desperate. When people get desperate, they do desperate things, right?
Yeah.
So I just, if there's, because people that know me and that follow me, like, I'm positive and I'm optimist by choice, but I'm also a realist. Realistically, I see what's going on, and I want to make a change. I want to do something better, for the country, whether that's, teaching people to defend themselves, or passing on knowledge that we were so lucky to garnish in the years at the unit and in Canadian Armed Forces, and share those experiences with others to make them a little bit more empowered, make them a little more hardened, just tougher and wiser, but accepting the fact that violence is a part of life, and war will change, it will evolve, but it'll always be present.
Always.
So
it's unifying. War is unifying.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want us to fight each other anymore. I'm so tired of people fighting each other on a national level.
Yeah.
It's just so silly.
It is.
It's such a waste of time.
It is.
Like, whether it's Afghanistan, Iraq, or USA, or anybody, like, the fact that we don't just actively unify at every opportunity is just silly.
Yeah, agreed.
It's completely crazy. Like, when we have the understanding that, we will face threats.
Yeah.
As a species, and we shouldn't be doing it to ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just silly.
Yeah.
Any chance to unify on missions that bring us together into causes which make us survive more fully, more awesomely, we should just be all over it. All over it.
Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the thing I'd love to show you a company called Mini Circles.
Sure.
I met these guys, and my brain exploded.
Oh yeah.
I was like, wow, the things that these people are doing. It's a small piece of one of these things that potentially gets us closer to really big unifying causes. Really big. You know, and if we can, as countries, you know, get behind things like that, like, you know, imagine if you took the budgets and you swung them a little bit, you know, on a world level, so that we really start to take care of space travel. You know, we really start to take care of genetic programs. We start to take care of AI, so that, you know, things really start to move forward, really start to move, instead of, you know, spending money on their defense budgets and things like that, which I understand that they're required right now, but they can be shifted so that, you know, we actually have a higher survivability as a species. You know, I think that this kind of thing is important.
What, and since you brought it up, it just triggered a question. So what are your thoughts on, you know, the current status of the Canadian Armed Forces? You know, recent announcement by the government in you know, increasing in defense spending, which is good. But what are your thoughts on?
I think it's all just horribly inefficient.
Yeah,
completely inefficient. Like, when you think of what we're trying to do as a country, I think it's just inefficient. We don't have an internal war, really.
Yeah.
We don't really have an active requirement militarily. Not really. We volunteer a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I personally don't feel that Canada's being, you know, our borders aren't really being attacked. If anything, we're being asked to join another country, which, but this is not really a threat, you know. I feel like the amount of money that we spend is just horribly inefficient. If I was to think what is a more efficient way to spend the money, is you have very small units that are completely secretive, and they're basically they're like wasps, you know.
Yeah.
And if you mess with us, there will be invisible people
Yeah.
that will just do massive amounts of damage to whoever fucks with us.
Yeah.
But you won't see them. And we will train them and use them in this manner. But we don't need to waste our time with regular forces and this and that. You just take some people who would be completely willing to do the job.
Yeah.
And authorize them to do massive amounts of damage to anybody who fucks with us. You
I
know?
like that approach.
I mean, it's super simple, and it's way cheaper.
Yeah.
Like, that way that we don't have to actively have a big parade. It's just silly.
Yeah.
Just train people who would do the job, who basically, if a country fucks with us, there will be invisible people who show up at the wrong place and cause big damage. You just don't want that.
Yeah, that'd be a great approach. How would we find those people?
Selection.
How would we advertise and recruit them?
Selection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be, man.
Wouldn't be difficult.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be difficult. You could the advertising for it could be good. You could run people through, you could find people, it could all be secret.
Yeah.
You know, you could take existing units, you know, you could disband 90% of the CAF.
Yeah.
You know, and you could make it this very, very small thing, which was very dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, educated in all the latest explosive and tech.
Yeah.
And just have people who can snipe and blow up and
Surgical,
super surgical,
Yeah.
and just don't waste the time with
Yeah.
and that's so expensive. It's so much money.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not required.
Yeah.
But I'm an arm wrestler. I just hold people's hands. That's what I do, buddy.
No, it's a good perspective, man. It makes for interesting conversations.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Right on. Well, I don't know. We're probably coming up just over an hour, I guess.
It's so cool to talk to you again, buddy.
It's awesome. It's great catching up. I'm glad to hear things are going well.
Yeah,
You got some exciting things coming up. That's wicked. So, you know, folks that are watching and listening, if you're not following Devon, please do so already. Show him the support that he deserves. He's a beauty human being. He's got lots to offer, and he's doing great things. You know, leaving on a finishing note. What for viewers? What would you share with viewers that, you know, they could take away, apply it to their day-to-day life, no matter if they're a school teacher, they're, a surgeon, whatever that might be, what would you share with somebody from your past experience that could help them?
I guess just a couple things. I'd say just make sure you really love what you do.
Yep.
And make sure you have long-term vision. I'd say, if you want to find peace in your life, understand that you are part of everybody and that it's so much of life is about the transference of energy, passing your energy through into everyone else so that, you remain, or what you believe in remains intact in what we all are.
Amazing.
Love you, buddy. You were always so good at your job, and I'm so happy that you're still doing it and teaching people.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Actually, funny story. I shared this story on I think a podcast I did in the past, but do you remember one time when we were up in the combat room? So we were doing some combative training, and I think we were doing some grappling. It ended up being some grappling, and you're basically toying with me. You're just like kind of try this, try that, and
weight classes.
Yeah,
weight classes, Randy.
And I remember being in the mount position, and you said, "Hey, sometimes you just got to revert to a caveman check."
Yeah. That's great, right?
And I remember putting my hands around your neck. I couldn't even get my hands around your neck. and you were saying, "Yeah, it's good pressure. Yeah, you're working on it. Yeah, it's good. It's good." You're almost like, I felt like a kid. I felt like literally like a kid. And then at some point, Devon's getting tired of this game, and he literally just kind of reaches around, puts his hand on the inside or the outside of my quad, and basically squashes my quad with so much pressure that I tapped from a squeeze.
Oh, that didn't happen.
Yes,
That didn't happen.
You basically threw me off of you. It was, oh man, it was funny. We laughed about it afterwards, but sometimes I get a lot of questions about, not a lot of questions. I get some people that ask me, "Do you know Dion Larratt?" I say, yeah, I had the great opportunity to work with him. Great dude. And, people will follow you, they have their opinions on, he seems like a really interesting guy. And, is he really that big? Is he this? He's that? A lot of questions about Devon. And what I share with people, I said, what you may or may not know about Devon is, from my experience and all the interactions that I've had with you, you have always been respectful. You've always told the truth. You haven't beat around the bush about anything. If somebody asks you a question, you're like, well, this is what I think. Here's the reason why. And the other thing that I don't think a lot of people, well, maybe they do, especially if they follow you in the arm wrestling circuit, is you are hyper competitive, super competitive. You don't like to lose at anything. Another fun story. We were shooting hoops at the unit. I had about 10 minutes. You're trying to get people to play horse with you.
Right.
Yeah. You're rallying people. Hey, come in.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to play. Nobody wants to play.
Right.
I said, all right, Devon, let's go. So Devon and I are shooting some hoops with this game of horse. And I literally had 10 minutes before I had to go. I can't remember what I was doing, but I had somewhere I had to go. And the game wasn't over, but I had to go.
It wasn't horse.
Was it 21 maybe?
It was that thing where we shoot and we got to score and then we run back behind the line. And
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. What was that?
I forget what that was called, but yeah, you're trying to sink the ball before the other person sinks and you got to bring it back to
That's what it was. Yeah. That's what it was. And I remember you were up and then I took a lead. And then because I had to go, you were like, no, you're not going out like that. I'm like, no, dude, I got to win. I got to go. You would not let me go until that game finished. And for the record, he ended up coming back and beat me. And I was 5 minutes late for my time.
Whatever.
But it was funny, just the level of competitiveness, but always in with good intentions. So Devon, you're a beauty. I'm glad to hear things are going well. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us, and much respect, buddy.
Thank you, Randy.
My pleasure.
Good talk.